If you enjoy this video, please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like what you see on my channel and would like to support me on Patreon, click on the link below. Throughout the 60s, science fiction seemed to be taken less serious, but in 1968, science fiction had been taken to new heights with the release of Kubrick's groundbreaking 2001: A Space Odyssey, which brought something new and exciting to cinema, especially to science fiction. 2001 would change the way we looked at movies. That same year, Planet of the Apes was released. This would be a film which would question man's existence and his superiority. The film asked, what would become of humans if apes were to become the superior species in the future? In 1963, producer Arthur Jacobs bought the rights to a very unique novel called Planet of the Apes by author Pierre Boulez. This was before it was officially published in 1963. Originally, Jacobs was going to remake King Kong, but that idea was dropped. The idea for Planet of the Apes was kept on the wayside for a few years. Jacobs would concentrate on other film projects for a while before picking up Planet of the Apes again and pitching the idea to almost every studio in town, but every studio passed on the idea. It took 3.5 years of rejections from studios.
I was approached by Arthur Jacobs with Pierre Boulez's novel, Planet of the Apes, and a remarkable series of paintings of scenes in the picture that Arthur envisioned.
Producer Jacobs didn't even have a treatment and a script, just a novel and a portfolio of paintings depicting possible scenes. He was generally laughed at by every studio who thought his idea was laughable and crazy.
And he would go from studio to studio, and they would say, what are you talking about? Spaceships? Talking monkeys? You're out of your mind. That's Saturday morning cereals. Get out of here.
They hired Twilight Zone creator Rod Serling to write a script. Planet of the Apes would originally be considered as a Twilight Zone spin-off movie. Serling admitted that he spent well over a year and 30 or 40 drafts trying to translate the novel to the screen. The original novel was very different and had the spacecraft crew land on another planet 350 light years from Earth. In the original novel, the ape society was technologically advanced, with cities, automobiles, and technology left over from the planet's human population. Serling's script almost was rejected for many reasons, mainly the cost of bringing a technologically advanced ape society to the screen. The film would need expensive sets, props, and special effects. Rod Serling would leave the project, and screenwriter Michael Wilson would rewrite the script, although Serling's twist ending was kept in. There were actually 3 other climatic twist endings proposed. Actor Charlton Heston's suggested twist ending was kept in the film. Fox's vice president, Richard D. Zanuck, was pitched the idea by producer Jacobs. He found the idea interesting and thought it would work as a film, although he had his concerns. To convince Zanuck that a film could be made, they shot a number of make-up screen tests, which used passages from Rod Serling's original draft of the script, and the actors had early versions of the ape makeup applied to them. Charlton Heston, who was Jacobs' first choice for the role of Taylor, appeared in the early screen test as Taylor. Edward G. Robinson appeared as Dr. Zaius, while 2 then unknown Fox contract actors, James Brolin and Linda Harrison, played Cornelius and Zira. Zanuck greenlit Planet of the Apes because he was so impressed with how the screen tests worked out. Next would be finding the right director for the project. A number of directors were considered, like J. Lee Thompson, who co-owned the rights of the novel with Arthur Jacobs, but he had to back out to work on another picture. However, Thompson would go on to direct the Planet of the Apes sequels, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes in 1972 and Battle for the Planet of the Apes in 1973. Director Blake Edwards was even considered to direct. They decided, after a recommendation from actor Charlton Heston, to hire director Franklin Schaffner. Schaffner worked with Heston on the 1965 film The Warlord. Director Schaffner made a few changes to the script and suggested that the ape society was made more primitive to reduce film costs. The ending with the Statue of Liberty was changed over a number of storyboard drafts. One version depicted the statue buried up to its nose in the middle of a jungle, while other depicted the statue in pieces. Then it was finally decided to have the iconic statue sticking out in the sand on the beach. The final story of Planet of the Apes revolves around astronaut George Taylor, a cynical man who has given up on mankind and who has the belief that there is a more civilized planet in the universe than Earth. Taylor, along with a crew of astronauts, crash land on a mysterious planet. The surviving crew members discover a society of apes who have evolved into the dominant and intelligent beings on the planet, ruling over humans who are the lower form of life on the planet. Edward G. Robinson, who played Dr. Zaius in the screen test, turned down the role. Robinson suffered from a weak heart, and he did not think he could endure the day-to-day grind of acting in full ape makeup. There were a number of actors for the role of Dr. Zaius considered. They would eventually cast actor Maurice Evans in the role. Linda Harrison, who also was in the screen test, would play the love interest to Taylor, the mute human woman Nova. They originally considered Ursula Andress and Raquel Welch for the role of Nova. At this time, Linda Harrison was the longtime girlfriend of studio boss Richard D. Zanuck. A number of actors, including Burt Lancaster, Sean Connery and Burt Reynolds, were considered for the role of George Taylor, but Charlton Heston was always producer Jacobs' original choice for the role. Rock Hudson was considered for the role of Cornelius, but it was thought that Hudson would overshadow Charlton Heston. The role of Cornelius was given to Roddy McDowall, who seemed to be the perfect fit. For the role of Zira, Julie Harris was considered. She liked the concept, but didn't see herself in makeup and turned the role down. The part of Zira was even offered to Ingrid Bergman, but she turned it down. After Planet of the Apes' success, she regretted her decision in turning down the role. Kim Hunter was cast in the role of Zira. To research their roles, Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter spent a lot of time studying apes at the zoo. The most important ingredient in the film was the makeup, and it needed to work for the film to be believable. Makeup artist John Chambers was hired to design the ape makeup, and prior to filming held training sessions at 20th Century Fox Studios. He mentored a team of 80 makeup artists. Chambers was a pioneer of makeup effects, which were based on a technique he used during World War II to give disfigured veterans a normal appearance. Chambers spent many hours researching and watching the apes at the Los Angeles Zoo, studying their facial expressions. A number of other productions had to be delayed, mainly due to the fact that most of the top makeup artists in Hollywood were working on the Planet of the Apes. The budget of the makeup was well over $500,000. Planet of the Apes still holds the record for having the highest makeup budget, which today would add up to over $2 million. The leftover makeup supplies were used for a number of other productions, including the TV series Lost in Space, in the episode Fugitives in Space in 1968. The film's final cost would be $5.8 million, and filming would begin shooting on May the 21st, 1967, and end shooting on August the 10th, 1967. There were many locations used around northern Arizona for the desert terrain. The heat in the desert scenes at the opening of the film proved so intense that many of the cast and crew fainted, including the director, due to the summer heat. Other locations used was the Colorado River and Lake Powell. Most scenes of the Ape Village interiors were filmed on the Fox Ranch in Malibu Creek State Park, northwest of Los Angeles, essentially the backlot of 20th Century Fox.
I need to come up with some ape unearthly architecture, and so I looked at all the books I could find to, be inspired. And I found in Turkey there's a troglodyte city carved into a mountain. And I liked the shapes, and it was a very strange place. And that was it. It was like that's what we're going to do. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but we had our meeting with the director and Arthur, and they said, yeah.
The beach scenes were shot on the stretch of the California seacoast between Malibu and Oxnard. Reaching the beach on foot was not an easy task, so the cast, crew, film equipment, and even the horses had to be airlifted in by helicopter. The remains of the Statue of Liberty were shot in a secluded cove on the far eastern end of Westwood Beach between Zuma Beach and Point Dume in Malibu. The special effects shot of the half-buried statue was achieved by seamlessly blending a matte painting with existing cliffs. The shot looking down at Taylor was done from a 70-foot scaffold angled over a half-scale papier-mâché model of the statue. The early scenes of the movie where the spaceship crash lands in the lake were filmed at Lake Powell, which is formed by a dam on the Colorado River on the Utah-Arizona border. The actors in Planet of the Apes were so affected by their roles and wardrobe that when not shooting, they automatically segregated themselves with the species they were portraying. Gorillas with gorillas, orangutans with orangutans, chimps with chimps. Amazingly, it just naturally happened. McDowell reportedly would drive home with full ape makeup on to shock drivers on the freeway. Heston, through most of the shoot of the film, had the flu, rather than waiting for him to get better. The producers felt that his hoarse voice added something to the character of Taylor. During the shoot, Linda Harrison, who was actually pregnant with producer Richard Zanuck's baby, started to show at the end of the shoot. This required careful posing to hide her stomach. There was even a subplot for the film about Nova being pregnant. This idea was discarded. Director Schaffner, through the film, used odd, skewed angles and handheld cameras to create a disorientating effect. During post-production, there was an attempt by censors to edit the final scene for profanity, but Heston argued that his character was actually asking God to damn those responsible for the destruction of the world to hell, rather than simply using the Lord's name in vain. Originally the line was going to be just, "My God." The scenes on the spaceship were the very last scenes shot. The spaceship was reused in other films, including The Illustrated Man and the sequel Escape from the Planet of the Apes in 1971, and used in the short-lived TV spin-off series Planet of the Apes in 1974. Composer Jerry Goldsmith was hired to score Planet of the Apes. Zanuck hired the composer after he heard the composer's musical score for The Sand Pebbles. Goldsmith at that time was a relative unknown. Goldsmith received critical praise for his score of Planet of the Apes, which is one of the most unique sounding scores of all time. The score has a definite, otherworldly, eerie, unsettled feel to it. Apparently, while writing and conducting, Jerry Goldsmith wore a gorilla mask to better get in touch with the movie. Planet of the Apes was released the day before the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. Planet of the Apes spent 3 weeks at number 1. Makeup artist John Chambers won an honorary Oscar for his outstanding makeup achievement. Planet of the Apes has made a definite impact to science fiction and modern cinema, and still today, even 50 years later, has stood the test of time. Sure, the ape makeup doesn't look as convincing as the effects of today, but regardless, I still think the effects hold up very well. The film has many interesting themes to it, and tackles controversial subjects, including religion, evolution, creation, and God. There's definitely a great level of intelligence to this film, but it also has its fun moments and suspense. Charlton Heston, in my opinion, gives a fantastic performance, one of his best, as the cynical astronaut. Taylor. Most of the principal actors do great, especially Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter, who are extremely likable in their roles. Jerry Goldsmith's score is definitely one of my favourite things about this film. I could go on about my admiration for this film. My name's Jonathan. Thanks for watching.